So, off stage, or what happens? Ivan's door buzzer sounded at close to tomorrow at midnight, just when he was unwinding enough from lingering jet lag, his screwed-up diurnal rhythm, and the day's labors to consider sleep. He growled under his breath and trod unwillingly to answer it. His instincts proved correct when he saw who waited in the aperture. "Oh God, Ivan Vorpatril. Go away." "Hi, Ivan," said Byerly smoothly, ignoring Ivan's anti-greeting. "May I come in?" Ivan took about a second to consider the, at best, complicated possibilities Byerly usually trailed in his wake, and said simply, "No." But he hesitated too long. Byerly slipped inside. Ivan sighed, letting the door slide closed and sealed. So far from home, it was good to see a familiar face. Just not eyes. Next time, use a security screen to pretend not to be here, eh? Byerly padded swiftly across the small but choice living quarters of Ivan's downtown Solstice luxury flat, rentals by the week. Ivan had picked it out for its potential proximity to Solstice nightlife, which, alas, he had so far not had a chance to sample. Pausing at the broad glass doors to the balcony, Byerly dimmed the polarization on the seductive view of the glittering lights of the capital city. Dome, Ivan corrected his thought tomorrow nomenclature, as the arcology existed under a hodgepodge of seals to keep toxic planetary atmosphere out and the breathable one in. Byerly pulled the drapes as well and turned back to the room. Yielding to a curiosity he knew he would regret, Ivan asked, "What the hell are you doing on the Kamar, Bye? Isn't this off your usual beat?" Byerly grimaced. "Working." Indeed, an experienced observer, which Ivan unfortunately was, could detect a distinct strain around Bye's eyes, along with the redness from drink and perhaps recreational chemicals. Byerly cultivated the authentic look of the barrier and high-bore town clown, given over to a life of dissolution and idle vice, by actually living it 90% of the time. The other 10%, and most of his hidden income, came from his work as an informer for Imperial Security. And 90% of that was just more dissolution and vice, except for having to turn in reports at the end. The residue, Ivan had to concede, could get dicey. "Wrapping out your friends to IMSEC for money," Ivan had once heckled Bye, to which Bye had shrugged and replied, "And the greater glory of the Imperium, don't forget that." Ivan wondered which it was tonight. In reflexive response to the manners drilled into him in his youth, Ivan offered something to drink, beer, wine, something stronger, and contemplated Bye's boneless flop on his living room couch. "Coffee?" "Just water, please. I need to clear my head and I need to sleep." Ivan went to his tiny kitchenette and filled a tumbler. As he handed it to his unwelcome guest, Bye said, "And what are you doing in Solstice, Ivan?" "Working." Bye's open hand invited him to expand. Ivan sat across from him and said, "Trailing my boss, who's here for an ops conference with his assorted counterparts and underlings, efficiently combined with the annual Kamar's fleet inspections. All the excitement of a tax inventory except in dress uniform." Belatedly, Ivan realized Bye had to already know all this. He found Ivan hadn't he? Because Bye's random social calls weren't. "Still working for Admiral Displays?" "Yep. Aide-de-camp, secretary, personal assistant, dog's body, whatever he needs. Aim to make myself indispensable." "And still ducking promotion, are you, Captain Vorpatril?" "Yes, and succeeding, no thanks to you." Bye smirked. "They say that at Imperial Service Headquarters, the captains bring in coffee." "That's right, and I like it that way." Ivan only wished it were true. It seemed barely months ago, though it was over a year, that the latest flare of tensions with Barrier's most traditional enemy, the Seedigandan Empire, had pinned Ivan to military headquarters 26.7 hours of Barrier a day for weeks on end, sweating out all the most horrific possibilities in detail, or had been averted through non-traditional diplomacy, mostly on the part of Barrier and Emperor Gregor's weasel-list imperial auditor, and, to give credit where it was due, his wife. That time, there was always a next time. Ivan studied Byerly, who was a few years younger than himself. They shared the same brown eyes, dark hair, and olive skin common to Barrier's somewhat inbred military taste, or aristocracy, whatever one wanted to call it, and indeed common to most Barrierians. I was shorter, slighter than Ivan's 6'1", broad-shouldered fitness, but then he didn't have a displays riding him to keep up the recruiting poster appearance expected of an officer serving at Imperial headquarters. Granted, when they weren't squinting from the dissolution, I's eyes had the startling beauty that distinguished his famous or infamous plan, to which Ivan was connected by a few twigs in his own family tree. That was the problem with being poor. You ended up related to all sorts of people you'd rather not be, and they all felt free to call on you for favors. So what do you want, Byerly? So direct. I've never become a diplomat that way, Ivan. I once spent a year as assistant military attaché to Barrier and Embassy on Earth. It was as much diplomacy as I cared for. Get to the point, Vi. I want to get to bed. And that looks of you, so do you. Ivan, his eyes wide. Why, Ivan, was that an invitation? I'm so thrilled. Someday, Ivan growled, I'm going to say yes to that old line just to watch you have a coronary. He spread his hand over his heart and intoned wistfully, and so I might. He drained his water and gave over the vamping. The face so often arranged in a vague smarminess, firming intently in a way that Ivan always found a touch disturbing. Actually, I have a little task to ask of you. So I presume. Well, it's quite in your line. I may even be said to be doing you a good turn. Who knows? I'd like you to pick up a girl. No, said Ivan, only in part to see what I would say next. Come, I pick up girls all the time. Not on your recommendations. What's the catch? Byerly made a face. So suspicious, Ivan. Yeah. Byerly shrugged, conceding the point. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure.